Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Fryrick?
Here.
Mr. Posnow?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Scalette?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Toman?
Here.
Mr. Watts?
Here. Thank you. Reminder, please silence your cell phones during the meeting. And this is our first opportunity for public comment. All comments and questions will be addressed to the President. Board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during the meeting unless recognized by the President to do so. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes or less. If you have any comments, please stand up, give your name and address, and go for it.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Erin Titter. My address is 1399 Clover Lane. And I apologize, I'm kind of going to have to read because I was home with a sick kid today, so I didn't have a chance to hone. I apologize. I have 3 kids in the district. I have a middle schooler, a student at Indian Rock, and a student at Valley View. And me, along with some of my neighbors, are here today to discuss some concerns we're having about the new bus routes and how we're determining bus stop locations. So just as a little background, back in July when the initial bus stop locations were given out for our neighborhood, our children were relocated to a stop at the corner of Clover and Lambeth. And for any of you who know the Hillcroft neighborhood, Clover and Lambeth is a rather tricky intersection. We brought the concern forward to Mr. Staub. He said he was going to take a look at it. We said, you know, this just isn't a safe intersection. We're really having trouble with this. Nothing was done before the start of the school year. You know, we continued to bring it up, saying that we thought there were better locations. My husband called and talked with him. Other parents called and talked with him. Nothing was done. Second day of school, one of the Spring Garden Township police officers drove by and said, "This is ridiculous. You can't have kids standing at this corner." We brought it forward again, said we were having some troubles. Nothing was done immediately due to the blackout period. So following the blackout period, we had our bus stops changed, which was a good thing. The bad part was that we had our Valley View student then placed at the corner of Clover and Old Orchard, and our Indian Rock student placed at the corner of Hillside and Clover. It's more than a quarter of a mile away. And so now I have to choose every morning where to go with my kids. I can't be at both. And so as you can see, that would present a bit of a problem. The distance itself isn't an issue to me. The bigger issue is the safety of my 9-year-old who now has to walk to the school bus without any parental supervision. We live over here in Hillcroft. There are no sidewalks. And the corner of Clover and Hillside, the only way to get there is to walk through a bunch of parked cars. Most of Clover has no parked cars. The one last block before that is all parked cars. So as cars are trying to get through in the morning and in the afternoon, it becomes one lane of travel. So where my kids are now walking between parked cars is also where cars are trying to dodge each other. So we've talked with Mr. Staub. We've had lots of email conversations. We've met in person. And we just feel like we've been presenting very respectfully alternate locations that would be much safer for all of the students. It would actually decrease the walking distance. It would be less of a danger to the students, and we feel that there's just been a lack of trust and respect that we've been getting from the district as a response to our concerns. It feels as if the economizing and the consolidation is taking priority over student safety. There are plenty of locations within our neighborhood that would be much safer for our kids and wouldn't require that I can't be with both of them. I'm still responsible for both of them, but I've been forced now to have to choose between the two of them. And it's unfair to my kids, it's unfair to me, and it's unsafe. So we just wanted to bring that up. We think there might be a way, you know, you have a group of active parents who are willing to work with you to provide alternate solutions, and we're kind of being dismissed, and we feel like there are ways that we can address the safety concerns that we have. We'd like to partner with the district to come up with a better solution. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, Dr. Williams, a safety study was done because of initially concerns and requests from the parents. And this is a recommendation that came back from the safety study.
Yeah, the initial interaction from the parents was that the stop was unsafe. So we spent man-hours, went out there, looked at it, and they were correct. It was unsafe. So to solve that issue, the number of students was too much for one stop in that location, so the 2 school stops were split, as was correctly noted. And more man-hours are invested in looking at that again. I really beg to differ with your assessment that you've been treated with disrespect.
No, I'm not saying you've been treating me with disrespect. I think it's disrespect.
The school district's been treating you with disrespect.
You've been dismissive. I think it has been a bit dismissive. We've been offering very reasonable solutions that don't increase costs, don't increase time, reduce overall distance traveled by students. And while we agree that by all of the PennDOT regulations, there's no violation in where you have placed our children, there are safer locations, and why not just at least entertain those as an option? I know you're saying there's too many kids at one stop. We can use opposite corners, and kids can very safely be within our eyesight and visually accessible to us at all times. It doesn't change any of the stops. Everything, the buses still drive by the exact same corners each time. My Valley View kid can be on the northeast corner, and my Indian Rock kid could be on the southwest corner of the same intersection. There's no reason to have them a quarter of a mile apart. I can't see them. I can't be in charge of them. I can't be responsible for them. And yet, I have to somehow be responsible for them. And that's my concern.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Knutson. I live at 354 Pine Hill Lane. I'm in the same neighborhood. I'm addressing the same issue of the bus stop. As someone who lives there, this is my 6th child that I have in the district. I'm well aware of how things work and that everybody has to take turns. But my son's bus stop, where I used to be able to watch from the window, he only had to cross one road. There were no parked cars that he ever had to go by because our neighbors on Pine Hill park in their driveways, most of them. He could cross where the stop sign was and go across. He wouldn't even have to cross Clover in order to get to his bus stop. He could go right down less than 1 block and be safely there. And I could watch him when I was feeling sick or not doing well or with another kid at home. I could watch him do that and make sure that he was safe. He now has to go 4 times the distance. I have to go with him. We've got a new schedule as we've got to bundle up and get down there longer. And I personally have had to run at full speed to get down to the bus several times in order to do it because it's so onerous compared to what we used to do. But the fact of the matter is he now has to go by 10 to 15 driveways. These people are coming out of their driveways between parked cars in the morning. Not only is there a single lane, but there are cars on either side of every driveway, people coming out of driveways, people coming 2 directions, and massive buses trying to come down that lane. And so I don't feel like my son is safe. And to me, it doesn't make any sense to make a decision that makes a child less safe. So I'd like you to reconsider. As far as I'm concerned about what study somebody did, when they did a study, how they did a study, I can make a study. I can look at my street and I can say, he now has to cross more driveways. He now has to manage 15 cars on each side. He now has to manage a very narrow place where people are hurrying and trying to get to work and school. And I can study that and know that it's not safe. So you might have an expert tell me something differently, but quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me. It does matter to me how well I'm listened to when I have a grave concern about the safety for my child. It does matter to me how responsive people are when I have a concern. And it matters to me that I am listened to when I bring up that concern. That matters to me a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Emily Cover. I live at 320 Old Orchard Lane, same neighborhood, same issue. I have 3 children. 2 are in the district. 1 will be in kindergarten next year. I want to start by saying that I respect York Suburban School District immensely. I went to West York. We lived in Red Lion for a little while. There's just the tension and the concern for the students is beyond at this school district. But I will say that I find it very disappointing, the conversations that I've had with Nick Staub, as has been gracious enough to return my many phone calls. The bus company is also in agreement with what we have presented to Nick, and that they would be more than willing to stop anywhere that is safe for the children, but that their hands are tied. When I asked Nick Staub about how this study was conducted of safety for the children, he told me he personally came out, and I thanked him for that, but I asked him at what time he came out. He came out at 10:30, around 10:30 in the morning, and then the later time, he came before any bus came. And I invited him to please come with us. I would bring a cup of coffee if he wants to, walk to the different bus stops with us. I have 1 child at Valley View, 1 child at Indian Rock. The first day that they were split, I did my very best to we went up to the Indian Rock bus stop first with both my children, well, all 3, and we got Emerson on the bus, and we booked it to Valley View. We were barely half a block when the other bus was coming because they're 3 minutes apart, and I was able to flag down the bus and just say, hey, can I just get my child on the bus today? It won't happen again. And he was gracious enough to let all of our Valley View kids on the bus. But he said, I cannot do this again, and I respect that. I mean, that's code. You can't stop in the middle of a street for a child. And I just would like the study to be conducted at a time that's relevant to when the bus comes and people are leaving for work. People are, everyone's out walking their dogs. There's delivery trucks happening. There's everything possible going on at that time in the morning, and it is not safe at all for our children to be down there. And I know his other response to me was, it is not a measurable study, and we do not take into consideration where the parents are with their children. And my only response to that is, you will be able to measure when a child gets hit by a car or when a child is snatched up by someone because there is not a parent at that bus stop. In kindergarten, you require a parent to be with their child. 1 year later, you do not. And I know that is a parental decision, and I know that is a PennDOT whatever, I can't think of the words, code that, it is recommended that a parent be with a child but not enforced. And as I'm trying to connect the dots, it seems like there is a precedence over efficiency, that efficiency is over the safety and logical decisions for the child. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to take a lot more of your time. My name's Amy Hall.
I'm at 1745 Hillock Lane. I just wanted to chime in as well. Our stop, Keely and I, our stop was at the corner of Clover and Greendale, and that was changed. So now I'm just thinking ahead that I'm going to have next year 1 child at 1 stop for kindergarten and another stop. And what I love about the district is that we have the K through 2 and the 3 through 5, because it does really, they learn a lot on the bus, so it is really nice having that separation. But now it makes it tough then for traveling, because it is going to be hard. It is hard for the parent to have them at 2 different stops. And when I mentioned to Nick about what do you do, my son was going to be a half mile up the street, and I have another child that's at Valley View that's at our old stop. and that's not taken into consideration. And I just would ask that that would be taken into consideration, because we have two parents that are working and a grandparent is doing a lot of this shuffling for you. It makes it tough. So, I mean, I'm all for efficiencies and saving money, but the bus goes right by this Clover and Greendale every day. I just don't feel like it would add that much more time to have kept that as Indian Rock, Valley View, and middle school, and why that Indian Rock stop was eliminated. That's it. Thank you.
Much different to add, but my name's Keely Norman, and I am 1779 Clover Lane. And I have one student who is a third grader at Indian Rock and one boy who is a first grader this year at Valley View. And last year was our first year in the district. We're new to the area, and we're wowed. We really loved the experience we had in second grade and kindergarten last year. The bus stop that had a bunch of kids at it last year that we were at for both kids, because they were sharing the same bus, both at Valley View, was Clover Lane and Greendale, which is a very open corner, and the ways the stop signs work, you can see the opposite traffic, and it's safe, and there's lots of room. It's still the route that the bus takes. They cross that. There's a stop sign. They have to stop. There's not a bus stop there anymore, which I was surprised when the buses were the bus stops were redone that wasn't used as a stop, because it seems like a very good one. And as Amy said, there's enough space for it to, host all the schools stopping there, with the different times. It's really tough to make the choice of how to get all kids to safe spots and how to watch them and all of that, and that's all been said. Both my students, I had them switched. I called Nick Staub and the bus company and all of this when we learned that Greendale wasn't a stop anymore, to be up at the corner of Crestland and Hillcrest, which is a pretty crazy traffic decision, but it's spacious enough that the kids are safe, but they do have they have a lot of high school students and a lot of people who come straight off of Queen Street down Hillcrest and don't even stop at the stop sign. So luckily we're not on that corner. We just watch them not stop. So that's pretty far from where we are. I just get all the kids in the car. I have 3, so one's still at home with me. We get everybody there in time and just park in the car and wait at the corner, and it's worked out. It's definitely a little nerve-wracking for me in the afternoon because I'm not as regularly able to get to my timing is a little bit different in the afternoon than it is in the morning, and so it's far enough that it's a far walk, especially for my first grader. So if I'm not there in the car on time, it really freaks me out to think of them walking the whole way down and around to. It's a lot shorter to go up Hillcrest, but it's super dangerous because of the way people come off of Queen Street. So I've said, if I'm ever not at the bus stop in the car, you need to come down, and it's like 3 sides of the square instead of just one, because it's much safer that way. So it's been a little tricky and kind of, I heard the word, it just doesn't seem logical the way that they all were kind of divided. We've been doing our best to make it work. We've kind of tried to put requests in where we thought they might be noted, and just came and figured we'd add our piece and listen to what you guys were able to do. I like that that you guys have this community involvement and that you guys are so open to, the district is so open to hearing from parents, and I really appreciate that and think it's neat to see how you want to work together. So thank you for that.
Thank you. More? Okay. All right. Okay, well, thank you. And now you're all here, you're going to stay for the whole meeting and listen to us, right?
Tell our husband at home with his kids.
This is their night out.
All right, we have an action approval on the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 20th, 2018, and the planning committee meeting of September 4th, 2018. Unless there are corrections, I would move that they be approved as submitted.
I have one correction request. The planning committee minutes, if the members present, the board members' names can just be double-checked for spelling.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Others?
I'll see you next
at 2?
And it's online.
Then I guess they're approved. We don't need a vote. Okay, thank you. Mr. Sears.
Okay, treasurer's report tonight, like usual, is a consent agenda. Would any board member like any of the items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of the items? If not, chair moves for approval of the below mentioned items. The roll call.
Second.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. The board met prior to this meeting in executive session as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing matters of legal and personnel. No official action was taken. And while I've got this chair here, let me take my chance here. Every now and again we have some good news. One of our board members recently published a book. Let me see if I get it right. It's called Markets, Ethics, and Business Ethics, 2nd edition. So I urge you to all go out. I'm not sure if I can do this to press it. You should all go out and take a look at it. Dr. Scollett has now done this. Nicely done.
Where can we get this brilliant work?
I've seen it on Amazon, but I'm not pushing anything. Setting a record.
Will the author be signing copies?
That's right. Can signed copies be made available? I spoke briefly this week with the representative from the Chester County IU. If you recall, when we did the search for a superintendent, there was discussion about a retreat or a planning session, and we're working to come up with some dates to spread around to get that moving forward. So that's underway. There is I don't know why we call them fireside chats, but there is a fireside chat without the fireplace that is scheduled on October 17th, and that is with the administrative leaders, I believe, and Lois Ann, Rich, and myself will be attending that. There is a fireside chat schedule with the YSEA on, I think it's the 25th of October. Do I have that date right? I can't read my own writing, but I think it's the 25th.
I think so.
And Rich and myself will be there. Rich is the Personnel Committee. And I think that's all I have. Dr. Williams.
Thank you. We have with us tonight Jennifer Myers, who's the president of the Music Boosters Association, to give a presentation.
You took my intro away from me, so.
Jennifer Myers.
On behalf of the YSMBA, we would like to thank the school board for the awesome new uniforms.
A small team of directors and parents worked really hard to design this. We were looking for something that the students and the district would be proud of. So this is my son Tyler. He is a senior this year. He's been a 4-year member of the marching band. So I brought him along so you could see what we came up with and what we just introduced at the game last Friday. So put the shake on. Most of the kids will wear the strap down around their chin. Drumline can't do that. On one sleeve we do have the YS.
She's going to owe you for this.
We told him he had to flash some Vanna poses, but he wasn't hearing that. So again, we thank, on behalf of the students, the YSMBA, we definitely thank you for these uniforms. They were fantastic. They looked great on the field last week, and it just kind of made their sound even better. So. We do currently have 60 uniforms right now, and 4 drum major uniforms. The marching band is growing, so eventually we would love to add 15 additional uniforms, hopefully maybe within the next year or two, just to accommodate the various sizes of the students. When we fitted these uniforms on Wednesday, very quickly to get them into them on Friday, we have, God bless him, we have a 10th grader who looks like he's 8, And then we have, not that my son is ginormous, but we have up to this size. So we have multiple different sizes in between there, so the better we have to fit, the more we have to fit, the better. So then we are also still working with, we continue to have a joint effort with the sports boosters with the Big Orange Cafe. I don't know if anyone's aware, but last year we replaced a lot of equipment. So we're looking for a very successful season this year with equipment that's not going to break on us, and wondering if we're going to walk in and have spoiled food. Freezer was one of the things that we did replace. So come to football games, support the Big Orange Cafe. And then the last thing I have, the music department would like to thank you for approving the trip in April. Students from the concert band, the chorus, and the orchestra will be traveling to the Poconos and New York City. They're going to be seeing a bunch of educational sites. Their schedule is pretty packed. And the big thing for me that I think is cool for these guys is that they're going to be playing a concert on the flight deck of the USS Intrepid. So this is going to be a kid trip these kids won't forget. So just on behalf of the YSMBA, thank you all for your support.
So how many band members have you ended up with?
We are at 55, I believe, right now.
Drumline and,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, in the superintendent's report, you have that in front of you, in a stapled handout. I'll read through various parts of it. Even though it is only September, we are already beginning to plan for next year while we're getting the new school year underway. Our enrollment numbers are becoming more solid, and the administrative team has been busy identifying and constructing goals for this year. This is all transpiring as we begin planning for the 2019-20 school year by starting the budgeting process, everybody's favorite time of year, and beginning conversations about school start times. Here's a rundown of what's happening this month. Budget calendar. Ms. Mason is preparing the budget calendar for the 2019-20 school year, and she'll present it at this month's Finance Committee meeting and at October's planning meeting. Goals. I've been meeting with administrators about goals for their buildings and divisions. I had asked them to prepare no more than 3 goals that focus on 3 areas: student achievement, social emotional wellness, and fiscal responsibility. There was a lively discussion during each meeting about how to refine and modify their suggested goals to be more measurable and intentional. And spirited, I mean that in the most constructive way. Yes. So those were really, no one got angry, everybody spoke their mind. It was healthy dialogue. It was really good. I was really pleased. Class size report. Below are 3 tables that show class sizes at the 3 levels. You got the elementary level, the middle school level, and the secondary level. And you can see where we have guidelines for various class sizes at the various levels, and some notes about where we are relative to the guidelines and where we're under. Please keep in mind that guidelines are just that. They're guidelines. They're not hard, fast rules, as you will be able to see from the data on those tables. Also, at the end of this report is the enrollment report, slightly modified from how you're used to seeing it. Asked Nick to modify the enrollment report so that you could see the whole picture K-12 in one table, whereas before you had to bounce around a little bit to see everything, and now it's all in one table. So it's a different look, but it gives you a better picture, a better 10,000-foot view of the whole district in one site. Also, Sue Grove retired this week. After 34 years with York Suburban, Sue's last day on campus was Friday. In the short time I've known Sue, I've found her to be hardworking and conscientious. She will be missed. Our new HR director, Sandy Feely, spent 2 days with Sue last week to help with the transition. Ms. Feely will be with us full-time on October 1st. Assistant Superintendent update. We'll be holding 3rd-round interviews this week for this position and expect to arrive at a recommendation for the October 1 board meeting. Once a selected candidate is on board, we'll be fully staffed. Right now, we're not fully staffed. The next item is an item that we will have a lot of discussion over the next year, flipping start times. A growing body of research supports the concept of secondary students starting their school days later than what many secondary schools currently do. Like most schools, York Suburban falls into the category of schools that start their teenagers earlier than they should, according to the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and other organizations. They recommend that the school day for teenagers should begin at 8:30 or later. Some districts have chosen to embrace the research and flip the elementary and secondary start times, having elementary students go to school during the traditional secondary times and vice versa. I would like to begin the conversation here to consider altering the start times to reflect what the research says is best for students. A change like this would require a great deal of preparation, planning, and communication starting now. Please be aware that our administrators will begin having conversations with stakeholders about the concept to see how we could best make such a change. People have many reasons as to why not to make the change. I sense from the administrative team, though, that they are more likely to look for ways to make it work as opposed to finding reasons not to do it. Those of you who have teenagers know that 7:30 is ungodly, right? Yeah. So, the research does show that teenagers, their sleep cycles change as they get into their teen years, and it's more difficult for them to function well in the morning. So the research is saying that teenagers should be starting school at 8:30 or later. Later than 8:30, I'm not sure is realistic, and I'm not sure we can even get to 8:30. But we need to have a conversation as to how best we can honor the research and try to do something that's good for kids, if we can. Next item, boundary, non-boundary athletics. This may be a new terminology that you're probably not yet familiar with, but I promise that you will become familiar with it as time goes on. There's a growing movement among PIAA schools, particularly in western Pennsylvania, to delineate championship tournaments by boundary and non-boundary schools. Boundary schools are defined as those schools that have fixed property lines. Commonly, they are the state's public school districts. Non-boundary schools are those that may draw students from anywhere. They typically fall into the private school or charter school category. Critics of the current system say that while the non-boundary schools make up a small percentage of the PIAA's members, they win roughly 70% of the state championships. Proponents of the current system point out that public schools have the ability to charge tuition for those who do not live within the public school's boundary. Their contention is that all schools are non-boundary schools because we can take tuition students. That's an argument I've actually literally heard coming from their mouths. At some point, we may wish to take a stand on this issue. For right now, I just wanted to make you aware that this could become a hotly debated issue, even to the point of state legislator involvement. State legislators actually have been involved via a mechanism called the Athletic Oversight Committee that has senators and representatives on it. And I've witnessed them in action, and let's just say it's interesting. PSSA results for 17-18. Building administrators had previously reported about the overall PSSA and Keystone scores, and parents will soon receive an individualized report for their children. The Pennsylvania Department of Education is yet to release state averages for the PSSA and Keystones. When it does, we will share them with you and how we compare to those metrics. And also tonight, we have some Mr. Shirey and Ms. Fasick to deliver a report on schools, an update on our measures for school safety. And we also have administrative reports from Dr. Stoltz, and Mr. Shirey is going to do double duty tonight and provide information about the high school building. So we'll do the school safety presentation first.
Thank you. Dr. Ketterman is going to be joining us as well. We do have a presentation. I'm not going to go into great length, but we thought that it would be important to update the board where we are with school safety. We had talked last year after the Parkland situation. We had talked about what we were doing for school safety, so we wanted to come back in the beginning of the year, reshare where we're going and what our plans are for the year. So what we're referring to right now is we do all kinds of drill days in October, but I'm specifically going to be talking about our active shooter training. Act 55, Section 1517 of the PA School Code says that school districts can take one of their designated fire drills per month, so take one out of the year, and they can use it as a training in an area of, not limited to terrorism, armed intruder, or other violent threats. So the York Suburban School District has taken this one which most of will talk about when we're going to be doing it, as an active shooter training as one of our fire drills for the year. So last year, when I was here to talk to you, I talked to you about Alice. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about Run, Hide, Fight, and I know what some of you are going to say, why are we changing it up? Let's start by saying that Alice and Run, Hide, Fight basically are the same thing. I use the analogy of you can drive a Ford or you can drive a Chevy. Each one comes with its own bells and whistles, but basically you have a car or a truck that gets you from point A to point B. That's what these two things are. One comes with an acronym: alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. But I would lay odds that if you went home to any of your teenagers, ones that have already graduated, ones that are currently in the middle school where I am, and you ask them, 15 seconds or less, tell me what Alice stands for, they're unable. I did the same type of survey with them, and they could get one or two letters, and they couldn't. If they can't say it all, they don't know it all, will they be able to react to it? So the Department of Homeland Security and the Pennsylvania State Police, they support Run, Hide, Fight. It's the exact same thing in different ways. Instead of ALICE, and what order do you do that in, it's as simple as you run if you can get out safely. If you can't get out safely, you hide. And if you are in danger when you are in that position of hiding, then you fight as a last resort. We ask the students to be in different scenarios and think about it. They could easily come up with, what does it look like to run? What does it look like if they were hiding? And what would it look like if they had to fight? So we changed our terminology, we changed the packaging that it's in, but it's the same concept that we're looking for. How do we limit the number of casualties? How do we make our students safer? And how do we make them more aware of what they want to do? Now, while I'm presenting this to you as Run, Hide, Fight, what we want to make sure we taught our students was that this is not a school rule. This is not just a school skill. We teach fire drills. We don't wait for fire to go off. We've got that down to a science. When we're talking about Run, Hide, Fight, we are teaching the kids that in all areas of our life, we need to have situational awareness. We need to be aware of what is happening. If you look at the statistics, if you look what's happening in the world, it's in restaurants, the Waffle House, and that's not the only one. It's in malls, it's in movie theaters, it's in places where you all go to work. It's everywhere. So as I'm raising my nieces, and I say raising, I'm second mom, you know, we're always looking, not just watching for cars, not just following certain rules when we're in school. We're following where we are, what's around us, and what is safe all the time. And that's one of the things that we're trying to get across to the students. So when we taught them Run, Hide, Fight, or are teaching them, it's to be using it at any point in time, wherever they are, so that they can get out safely. Unfortunately, it's the world that we live in. We are going through a time of life that I don't think any of us ever thought that we would have to be dealing with all these situations. So we're trying to navigate it the best we can and make our students as aware and knowledgeable as possible. So what we created, we're using this in the middle school, and we shared this with all of these. Obviously, this I would not promote using in the elementary schools the way that it is, but for secondary, it's looking at you can run, you can hide, or you can fight, and it's the same words. If there's a safe path and you can get out, you run. You don't take your belongings. You leave everything behind. Our common thing is if you can get that phone, that's great. But if your phone's plugged in across the room, you're not worried about it. It's you and your body that you're most concerned for. You don't hesitate. You don't wait, what was that? You try to help others as they're going, but your main mission is to get out. If you can't get out safely, then you hide, as I said before, making sure that you silence those cell phones. Be as quiet as you can. Texting works great at this point in time to get information out. We lock and barricade doors. And there's a difference between hiding and trying to take cover. For instance, if you're hiding, what used to happen is we would have the lockdown drills and everybody would just go to the far corner of the room, hope we couldn't see, would all bundle in one area and practice that type of a drill. Now it's more about tables would be on its side, we'd be behind them, anything that we could to put some type of cover in front of us. And we try to do our best to stay out of a shooter's view. So that window that's actually behind that screen is something we would worry about. Could you be in the closet that's back there in the corner? This door would obviously be blockaded to the best of our ability. And as a last resort, if you have to, you fight. And as we explain to our kids, and we'll talk about, we're not talking MMA, we're not talking about stepping in the octagon, we're not asking anybody to go toe-to-toe with anyone. But if we were all in this room right now and they came in, if we look at all of the things that are around us, from our computers to paper to the step stool that's down here, the shoes that are on this field, and I was looking at your heels, I was like, they could do some deadly damage. And throwing those, the water bottles, the pitchers, our phones, everything that we have, when you're throwing them, that's the type of fighting that we're talking about. That can you distract the shooter enough that if they're going this way, others can be going out the door if this was the only exit, that do they drop the weapon? If the weapon is dropped, kick it out of the way, you never pick it up and touch it. We're not asking anybody to do that, including people that are trained in doing that. Or can you get them, but they're over and they're not the weapon, that maybe, 5 or 6 people are sitting on top of them while others can get away and get help. That's what we mean by fighting, that you have choices and you're fighting for that last choice and that last ability to be able to stay safe. So, Theodore Roosevelt said it best: in a moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. We don't always know what that is. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst we can do is nothing. So we're trying to teach our kids that are 3 things. If you can get out, you run. If you can't get out safely, you hide. And as a last resort, you fight. Run, hide, fight. And if you go home to any middle schooler, they should be able to tell you those 3 words and what they mean. Dr. Kedman or Mr. Shires? So one of the things we wanted to share with you is just how frequently we do practice these things, and at the elementary level, it's always a part of the startup of the school year where we do different trainings and different drills. One thing that we've adopted really across the elementaries is to have a drill week. They do it at different times, but it's always early in the year. Communication is always sent home to parents ahead of time so that they can know and talk about their children with it. And so we do it in September and October, and then we do, because of the age of the child, we revisit it again in March, and we do all of the drills over again just to help cement that in their brain. And do you want to talk to each of yours? And then you can just see, I guess, the training. Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about with the elementaries, we do the faculty training, we do the teachers train the students, and one thing that's different, of course, at our level is when we're talking about active shooters and whatnot. We have this book that has been a great resource. I'm Not Scared, I'm Prepared. And so it talks about a dangerous someone that would come in, and it talks about the teacher and how the teacher, teaches you fire drills and teaches you weather-related drills, and this is just a different drill, and it talks about the sheep, the shepherd, and the wolf. And so the teacher becomes the shepherd and how you are all sheep, and you should stop, look, and listen when I'm in this shepherd role, and we have to do whatever we can to get away from the wolf safely. And it talks about how the first choice is to run, and you're going to run, and they designate a place. And we do this with kids, and we show them where this place is. And you might even run faster than the teacher. That's okay. You go and you wait for me there. And what to do if you have to hide. And they talk about not hiding in one group, but they talk about we're going to be all over the room, and we're going to yell and act crazy because we want to make sure we distract the wolf. And then last, of course, they talk about fighting it, and they do talk about just things that are around your desk that you would have to throw at the wolf to make sure you can try to keep them away. So it's done in a way that the kids can relate to it, and again, then the teachers practice, with their classroom in just a very safe, low-key way. In middle school, we trained our staff early in September, and then last week, after sending them notification to our parents, we had a training with the students where we taught them the run, hide, fight. We did this in conjunction with Spring Ferry Township. We actually had, we used the TV studio, and I and Lieutenant Beam watched a video with them, trained them, talked them through it, had class discussions. And then what we did was we used Google Chat so that the students were talking with their teachers. They were able to ask us live questions on camera that Lieutenant Beam and I answered. You have the silliness of, they're middle schoolers, that they ask, some crazy questions sometimes. But we got that out of the system, and then they were asking really good questions and leading to a very strong discussion with the teacher and with us. And the bottom line is I think they felt reassured in a way, and our teachers did as well, is that no one was an expert and no one had the exact right answer, but it's thinking. And it's, we want our kids to be thinkers. This is what we're training them and sending them to school for, is to be thinking and how to solve a problem. That's what this is. We're just giving them 3 words as tools. We did define that fight and talk about what that word fight meant, because especially with middle schoolers, not that they can think that they're superheroes going along the way. We are going to have a drill in October, which will be a scenario situation to process in the classroom. So as I reassured a couple parents who had some questions, no one is going to come in and be shooting in our hallways. No one is going to be acting like they were shot. No one is going to be running from the building with the hands up. We're going to give them a scenario that's saying that maybe something is happening outside of room 200. This is what we've heard. This is what's been reported. And then give them a chance to talk. Based on where they are in the building, would they run, would they hide, would they fight? If they were going to hide, what would that look like? If they needed to go into that fight scenario, what would that look like to defend their classroom? And go from there. So I called it what we call a slow moving drill, because it's not like a fire drill, get out as quickly as you can. It's time to process what is actually happening.
Good evening. And at the high school, we started our training 2 summers ago when we did call it Alice. And then when we went through the Run, Hide, Fight, which is essentially the same, we wanted to make sure that our teachers knew what to do in a scenario. And I did mention that at a previous board meeting, that we went through a training. We used silly string, we used spongy balls, and we talked about the importance that it's a life skill. There's over 1.2 million acts of violence reported every year that aren't in school districts. And statisticians will say that's over 2 million, because most aren't reported. People are too nervous to report it. So we know that we want our kids to understand this, not just in our building, but like Mrs. Spacek said, elsewhere. So our skill was, we went through those statistics, we went through that rationale with them. We talked about everything that's been learned through law enforcement and changes that even they have made since Columbine. Now it's the first in, where it used to be police would wait until reinforcement came, and then they would proceed when they felt it was the right time. Now, if whoever that first person is in our front doorstep comes in, their job is to draw fire to themselves and neutralize the target. So they are not going to be asking questions. They're not going to check in with us and say, where is it? They're going to be going straight down through the hallways, finding the target to neutralize it. That's the new training, and we wanted to make sure our teachers understood that. So they ran around, and we gave them 3 scenarios. They ran, number 1, they would go into a room, they pretended they were teaching, and then all of a sudden, when they didn't know what was going to happen, someone would come in with silly string and pretend to shoot them. And they would see how many people escaped. We did the hide. Again, somebody would try to barricade the door, the person would come in and try to shoot them with silly string, and then the last one was, for lack of better words, all heck broke loose. They didn't know it was coming. It was in the middle of the follow-up presentation, and in our big, large group room, we had assailants burst in, and it was, do I fight? Do I run? Do I hide? What do we do? And there was a lot of emotion, a lot of understanding. Our students will be going through nothing like that, but our students will be going through a training in about 3 weeks, where we will take one of our flex periods, about 20 minutes, to talk about this being a life skill. And then the next day, they will, in each period of the day, they will, the first 5 minutes of that period, in that classroom, how would we escape this room? What are our options? Do we have the window? Do we have the door? If we go out to this hallway, which direction probably should we go? If not, how do we barricade this room? What do we have in this room that we'll be able to use to push up? And think about a chemistry room is very different than an English classroom. So we want to make sure that every classroom our kids go in, they've had that time, that moment to think, in a situation in this room, what would I do? And so we'll do that. Obviously, we will contact parents just like all our other buildings and make sure everyone is aware. So, there's one more slide.
I don't think so.
Or no,
That was it.
we moved that one up forward. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
I think, and a lot of forethought and follow-up and follow-through, and I'm sure you'll be available to talk to the children afterwards if they have questions or something like that. I think that, and I like that the parents are going to have the notification, so that if the children come home, there can be follow-up where they understand where the questions may be coming from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stoltz?
Then we'll hear from Mr. Shirey.
Thank you for letting me speak on behalf of Yorkshire Elementary. We're almost a month into the school year. It feels a lot longer, so I don't know if that's a good thing or the thing about being in a primary building is it's so much at the beginning of the year with training. But before I get into training, we started school before school actually started, and having our school open with summer library this summer was a big asset, and come to find out one of the biggest benefits was letting having access to our incoming kindergarten students. So Mr. Henry worked it out that our incoming kindergarten students could already sign out books, and it worked out really great because now I understand those parents that made sure their children were there in the summer were some of the children that had a more difficult time transitioning, but great planning for those parents. So we averaged about 30 students each time our library was open, and a good number of them were kindergarten. So besides that, we did have, right before school started, our annual meeting, the kindergarten children on the playground with popsicles, and they got to meet their friends. But 2 years ago, our PTO started a family movie night, and it was just wonderful. So it was just a week before school started. We saw Toy Story out on the lawn. Our local Boy Scouts served popcorn, and just another nice way to help kids get ready to start the school year. So we did. We started school on a Wednesday, and the Monday before that was our kindergarten orientation, and it was actually when the teachers all meet. First time they met Dr. Williams, and we made our way back to the school, had a faculty meeting, and then transitioned to our different orientations. So our orientation, which was held separately. I spoke about that last year, our kindergarten orientation, and our back-to-school night. And then that way, the children really do feel comfortable for that first day of school. So as I was saying, a lot of primary is training. Mr. Watts, I'm sure your wife comes home and talks about getting kindergarten children through the lunch line. It's exhausting. Because, the silverware, the napkin, the tray, the choices of the foods, the carrying, the finding your spot, your seat, it's an ordeal. But we're to the point now that they can pretty much do it. But the biggest hurrah to me was to realize that we used to do that with 2/3 of our school because our kindergarten and first grade students couldn't do it. By the time you got to the second grade, it's like, they're old pros at this. But being that we had full-day kindergarten last year, it's only 1/3 of our school that had to have that training. So we're good to go with, your wife might disagree. But from my perspective, lunch is running very smoothly. We've been working with the children with learning and reviewing our 4B rules. We have our 4B rules assembly, and we got to the point of having our big reveal of Yorkie Bear came out, our big celebration, and now our job as the teachers and the staff in the building are to catch the kids doing the right thing. We really want to focus on that positive, so they're earning their gotcha cards and all that good stuff. As all this training is going on, the teachers were working on the fall benchmark assessment. So we have our reading, writing, and math scores in, and fortunately, thank you, we have Friday afternoon to really spend time to look at that data to help us inform our instructional grouping so that we can differentiate our students. We're looking forward to some of our traditions, our fall traditions. Our Teddy Bear Parade is coming up, and then it's always fun joining the high schoolers as being part of that big parade as we gear up for homecoming. So all is well down in Yorkshire, and please come and visit us anytime that you would like.
I
was asked by Dr. Ellis to just do a quick summary of our summer school. We do an English summer school program. We had 31 students attend this summer. All 31 students did pass, and it's not because it's easy. Mrs. Sebula actually makes it quite difficult, but it is, as far as credit recovery, she individualizes it for each student. So the document is up here. Just to give you an idea of what we're also looking at, we used to have a math summer school. We do not have a teacher who is willing to teach it, so we've been allowing students to go to the York County School of Technology. But we have mixed results with that, so this year we're hoping we do have a teacher who's willing to do a summer school during the school year in an attempt to save students before they get to the end of the school year and fail. So we're going to hopefully start that in maybe another month, where as students are showing the first marking period not doing well in Algebra 1, we will do an after-school session Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for an hour so they can ride the activity bus. And it's a miniature version of a summer school. So we're hoping to recoup that first marking period grade so they do better the second marking period. And if they do better the second marking period, they'll probably do better the third marking period. We'll do that maybe 2 or 3 times during the school year and offer that for students. So hopefully our numbers of failures and our opportunities for success increase. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do this year. Now, as far as the high school report, here we go. Got a little picture. I'm not going to take Lauren's thunder because we have a lot going on with athletics and homecoming coming up, and I know she wants to talk about that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, we have the start of the school year that has been fantastic. I'll move out of the way. The first one down here at the bottom, it says Freshman's Rock. That's a student-created poster. Our Link crew did a fantastic job orienting our students to the high school this year. We've already had 2 after-school activities to try to get our young 9th grade students, some people might not call them young, but to us they're young, our young 9th graders acclimated with sophomores and juniors and seniors, and those were after-school events. So we welcomed them with open arms. The 3 pictures on the right-hand side, the 2 up top, we did expand our senior lounge, which, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's our front lobby, but we call it our senior lounge. We doubled the number of tables, and we doubled the number of chairs, so now we can host, I think, 44 students, and that is regularly filled now. So when our seniors have their privileged opportunities for study halls, they can hang out there, and lunch, cafeteria, they don't have to eat with the freshmen. So again, we allow them to eat up in our front lobby, which is good because our picture at the bottom, that is our new cafeteria. That's what it looks like. While 80 students increase doesn't seem like a lot, that's a 9% increase to our high school this year, and we are feeling it when it comes to lunchtime. So Lauren knows, she eats there. Yeah, they're all full. Yeah, they're all full. So that's what it looks like. So our new furniture that we got, we very much appreciate that. So thank you so much. Bigger tables, a little bit more seating. But if we get more kids, we're not quite sure where we're going to stick them. We're going to have to stick them somewhere. That's, again, why we let the seniors go to the front lobby, because if they sat in that room, well, we just wouldn't have the room. So that's the second part. The third part I'd like to talk to you about is last year we did some committee work. We did a lot of committee work with teachers, and we talked about mindfulness, we talked about college and career preparation, and we talked about culturally responsive teaching, among 2 others. But those 3 were continuing this year, and we challenged our teachers when we meet with them at the beginning of the school year privately about their goals and what they want, where they want to grow during the school year. We challenged our teachers and we said, stick to one of those 3, okay? Stick to one of those 3. And I have to say, I'm very proud to announce that our teachers took that ball and have run with it. For example, 27 of our teachers are doing a book study using the mindset text. 3 teachers are changing student mindset in math through a book called Learning to Love Math. You never thought you could love math, but they're going to do it. 11 teachers are digging into careers by bringing in speakers, having book studies, and even highlighting a different career related to their specific subject area each week. So we are doing a lot of great things as far as those three areas. The picture at the top is an example of our art department. They have almost 40 past graduates who then became artists. And if you walk our halls, you will see that the posters they hung up at the very end of the school year last year in celebration of, again, moving into that career. You'll hear a lot from the high school when it comes to career readiness. A lot of our goals over the next probably 3 years, you will hear a lot that has to do with giving opportunities and preparing our students for career, because it's obviously one of the biggest decisions that they have that isn't in our building. So, any questions? Well, thank you for your support. And again, if you want to visit any time, feel free to come over.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it for the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Ms. Mason?
Thank you. First item for the business office, the administration recommends board approval of the district positions and personnel permitted to use the district's procurement cards and their corresponding spending limits as directed in policy 625. Procurement cards.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. Yeah.
How come you don't get one back?
Because they don't trust me yet.
I think you can go all out. I mean, is there something against it, or your personal choice, or?
It just hasn't, we haven't gotten his or the assistant superintendent's or the accountant's yet. We're waiting to get them all at once.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and when I use a procurement card, a credit card, I always do a purchase order first anyway, so that it's clean.
Wondered where
you
you
know.
were on this list.
Yeah, no, it's not that I'm refusing it, it's just that we're, staging these things.
Other questions? This can be a short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next item, the administration recommends board approval of 2 combi ovens to be purchased through state contract 4400011968 from Singer Equipment Company for a total cost of $33,958.08. The ovens will be purchased from the food service fund and are replacements for the ovens at the high school.
So moved.
Second.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next item, the administration recommends board approval of the retainer agreement with ICU Detective Agency, LLC, in the amount of $4,725.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
What's this for?
Well, sometimes it's necessary for school districts to engage a private eye, for lack of a better word, to check up on residency issues. And we have a situation out there that we need to investigate thoroughly.
Other questions, comments? I guess this can also be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. On the informational items, you have the sales activity report. I also wanted to let the board know that we did in fact get a confirmation from PDE on the base index. As I reported out at Finance Committee, it is 2.3% for the 2019-20 budget year. They will release the adjusted indexes by September 30th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Ms. Geyer?
I'd like to begin my report with updates on each of the high school fall sports teams. Our football team is 2-2 after losses versus York Catholic and DeLone Catholic, and wins against East Pennsboro and Eastern York just this past Friday. For cross country, boys are 8-0 and the girls are 7-1. And on Saturday, the cross-country teams raced at an invitational in which the boys won and the girls placed second. Girls soccer has 4 wins and a tie, Club boys soccer is 5-1 and playing against Kennerdale as I speak. Golf is currently second in the division, and girls tennis is 4-3. Our field hockey team will be hosting their first ever Blue Out game, benefiting Four Diamonds Fight against pediatric cancer, next Monday, September 24th, against the Lone Catholics. Lastly, girls volleyball is 6-0 and ranked 5th in the state. On September 11th, girls volleyball held its 9th annual blackout game versus Eastern York and raised a grand total of over $6,100 for the Stephen Stiller Tunnel to Towers Foundation, benefiting first responders. At the game, we were lucky enough to have representatives from local emergency departments attend. We also had the York City Honor Guard present colors, and our very own YS Concert Choir select singers perform the national anthem. So I'd like to take this moment to publicly thank them for such a powerful night in the community. We also honored one of our referees, Lieutenant Gene Sells of the New York City Police Department, who is retiring in 11 days after 31 years of service. As a whole, the high school fall athletics are making all of us students YS proud thus far. In 1 week, homecoming festivities will commence. Each day of the week will be a spirit day where high school students are encouraged to dress according to certain themes, which always appropriately displays some of the students' humor and creativity. On Thursday the 27th, there will be the annual parade, bonfire, court introduction, and powder puff games for all of the community to attend. This night is personally one I look forward to every year, and also this year in Student Council, I am captain of the bonfire committee, so I welcome you to attend the traditional night as long as weather permits. On Friday, during the day, will be our student pep rally, and in the evening will be our football game where the homecoming queen will be crowned. Finally, on Saturday, the homecoming dance will take place at Whitehaven Event Center from 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. That being said, keep an eye out for some great festivities coming up soon, and that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that volleyball. May I ask a question on Dr. Williams' report? Sure. Question for you on the enrollment report. Particularly, there's quite a large increase in the number of homeschool children. Previously, before 26 and 36,
I don't have any inclination of,
no. Or anything like that as to why?
No.
That is. And then I was looking at some of the charter school numbers and concerned that we have another kindergartner that's on at this next month, and we have a seventh grader there. Are we getting any
Our numbers,
from those people as they make the change?
not anecdotally, no, but our numbers are running pretty much the same at this time last year. We're not seeing an uptick or a slide, and the numbers are staying relatively flat as relative to last year.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports, you've got the committee meeting schedule linked. Mr. Robinson,
Communications. Well, it was a fantastic summer. Those of you who live in Springetts Ferry Township probably enjoyed the article on Dr. Williams. It was brilliantly formatted, laid out. Wonderful picture. We met over the summer to discuss various and sundry items. One topic that came up was a way for all of us to be more visible. There was a brilliant suggestion from the floor of orange blazers with a patch, or polo shirts or hats or something of that nature, so that when we attend events or games, we will stand out and be more visible and show the flag for York Suburban. So if you have any preferences as what article of clothing you would like us to consider, please forward your suggestions. In that vein, we're also meeting to develop a communications plan or strategy. And at our next meeting in October, we're going to entertain various topics. So if you have any topics that you would like us to consider, please forward them to the committee for, say, our next articles in the newsletter. By way of example, I'm thinking of suggesting Suburban Mole Fighters 1, Mold 0. Or something along those lines. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you. Ms. Farright, Facilities.
Yeah, you have in front of you the minutes of the August 8th meeting, and at our most recent meeting, we had some discussion about some of the summer projects that some are finished and some aren't, to be continued. The committee has asked Dr. Williams to bring his ideas to our next meeting, not just about those items on the capital project list, but district-wide, taking into account such things as the looming increase in students as a result of construction in Spring Garden Township, and the ongoing need to continue with the projects that are already on our capital projects list. As the mold, it appears to be under control at the high school, and Mr. Gerling is taking a look at possible things that we could do next summer to alleviate or make sure we don't have that problem again in any of our buildings. And as we sit here tonight, Ms. Staub has gone to the Spring Garden Township meeting, hoping to get final approval for the new signage that we want to put around the campus here, directing people to various buildings. So hopefully we will have a good outcome from that meeting, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Mr. Sears.
Okay, we met on September 12th. Called the meeting order at 5 o'clock, approved the minutes which were attached to tonight's agenda. The administrative report was broken down into several critical subjects, one of which was a review of the parameters resolution one more time. We had a presentation that had several exhibits ranging from $7 to $10 million in increments of $1 million, and then a $17 million exhibit to let us see what the impact on debt service and millage would be to support each of these borrowing levels. Also reminded again that if we don't issue debt in October, we need to review the resolution. I think that's in good shape. That'll happen. We talked about real estate tax installments. Those will be well documented in the minutes for folks that are interested, especially residents of the district that are concerned about what those installment dates are and how that impacts their cash flow. We talked about the preliminary fund balance. There was a very detailed explanation of how we arrived at that. Those will all be in the minutes of the meeting and approved at the next finance committee meeting. There was a discussion of the preliminary estimates of the Act 1 index. So it seems like that 2.3 is the base index, and there was some, I guess, an estimate that 2.8 would be the adjusted index. Those are both at 10 point below the current year's index figures for suburban. We talked about the budget calendar and recommended the recommendation to opt out of exceptions this year in the affirmative. That'll be a more formal process later on. Budget review process we also talked about. An off-agenda item that came on was a discussion of the House Bill 2329, which is the property tax elimination bill. That essentially follows on the referendum that was passed in the state in November to allow school districts to eliminate residential property tax on homestead farmsteads through, in this case, an increase in personal income tax from 3.07% to roughly 4.96%, which is 1.76 increase to 1.72 increase. That's supposed to raise between $8.5 and $9 billion, which is roughly what school districts collect across the Commonwealth now in property tax. So it will be 100% replacement for the districts that opt in. I'm not sure how that language got read into that bill, but there it is. You can actually not opt in. That was the substantive part of the meeting. There was no chair report, public comment. Next meeting will be October 10th, 5 o'clock. We adjourn at 6:30.
Thank you. Personnel Committee, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have before you the personnel report, which includes retirement, resignation, employment, and volunteers. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second.
Questions, comments? This can be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Debt price is really a gem at the high school. Mr. Shirey has any words to address debt prices, the custodian who's going to be retiring. This is the first of the year, been there 30-some years,
31
or 4 or something, 34 years or something like that, I think. Really a very pleasant person and been an asset.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I just heard that today.
Okay,
So
there you go.
That it's just slowly trickling through.
Trickling down, okay.
Holman, policy.
The Policy Review Committee recommends board approval of two revised policies. Policy 210.1, administration of asthma inhalers and epinephrine auto-injectors, and Policy 810, transportation. I would move to approve those policies.
Second.
Questions? Discussion? This can be a short roll call vote as well.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Do we have any additional there? Legislative liaison, Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, Mr. Posnell. I'm sure you've all looked at the PA School Boards Association leadership election slate of candidates. And on that basis, I would recommend that we vote for the slate proposed. The majority of the candidates are one-office candidates, so there are only two variations. The two-year steering committee, I would recommend that we vote for Bard and LaFera, and the Transportation Forum, Smith, Williams, and Yarnell. And I believe we can vote on that tonight, or we can vote on it at the planning meeting in October.
Yeah.
We have until October 10th.
Some of these we don't vote for because we're not in the district.
Yeah,
The
but
advisory areas.
the ones we do.
That we're eligible
Yeah.
to, yeah, but we don't vote for.
We don't vote for people on the
advisors,
west. Right.
advisors, whatever.
Do we have a preference? Tonight, planning?
Why we don't do it now, I mean, there's only one candidate.
Sounds like a motion to me.
We have a motion to vote tonight. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. I think most
Okay.
of you are aware that Eric Wolfgang is president of the Central Board, has been for many years, and very active in PSBA. And Art Levinowitz has been very active down at Upper Galvin.
Other comments, questions? So let's do this individually since we're voting on people.
Roll call.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Pierce? Yes. Watt?
Yes.
Posnell?
Yes?
Robinson?
Yes.
Fryerick?
Yes.
Gillette?
Yes.
Holman?
Thank you. More?
I believe the board secretary submits that vote, not the
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Lincoln and Immediate Unit? And nothing? Oh, it's just to provide Dawn's Early Light. LIU, Ms.
I
Farag.
have no report this evening. And
York Adams?
very short report that, quick update, we have actually 9 students as of today, and others ready to be tested. So, and that concludes my report.
Okay. York Adams Tax Bureau?
No report.
No report. York County School of Technology, Ms. Schrader's not here, so no report. You have the board meeting and committee schedule posted once again. Last opportunity for public comment. Come on down.
My name is Erin Houston. I live at 354 Pine Hill Lane. I've been in the district now with my children more than 21 years. I had the privilege to be able to sit and listen. I appreciate the hard work that you do and all of the details. But I would like you to keep in mind that the ladies who came tonight have very young children. The woman who didn't speak had a nursing baby that was crying at home. It is a very important issue. I would ask that you would please address our concerns about the safety of the bus stop and take very seriously our attendance tonight and what it means to us and what it means as we stand at the bus stop together and how we will feel if we are not heard. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for what you do. And I know that you, in return, probably have great respect for what we do as parents and the things that we manage and the things that we do, and that our time is very valuable, as are yours. So please keep these things in mind as you go forward to take our concerns seriously, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're adjourned.